Yeah, well, no, huh? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. And if we could have a roll call, Mr. Hill.
Mr. Ballard?
Here.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Here. This time, I think it's time for the pledge. Do we have some guests to introduce? Mr. Jama.
Leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight is an 11th grade student from Lorain High School. Jeffrey Kovach is the son of Miss Renee Kovach. He has 3 siblings, and he is the youngest. Jeffrey works in his spare time at O'Neill Health Care Dietary. And after the pledge tonight, he will speak on Titan Mantra, which we use at LHS. Timely, invested, tolerant, accountable, and noble. Come on up here, Jeffrey. Give me the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Kovach. I'm currently a junior at the new Lorain High School building. Here at the building, we are all students. All the students are a part of something called the Titan Nation. And for those who aren't sure what a Titan is, I will elaborate on the word for you. The first T in Titan stands for timely. Here at the school, timely for us means to be to school and class on time every day. But to get a little deeper into the word, it doesn't stop at being on time. It also means turning in your work on time, or even in your personal life, being on time and punctual to work. I think this is a good life skill to practice. The I in Titan stands for invested. To me, invested means you're focused because you're committed to something, and for school, it means to do the work to get the good grades, or at work, being dedicated to your job, showing you're a hard, skillful worker, but yet still receptible to others. Next, the second T in Titan stands for tolerant. The dictionary definition of tolerant is willingness to allow the existence of other people's opinions or behavior that you don't necessarily approve of to happen. Here in the school, there are many more things to be tolerant of, such as teachers using different teaching techniques, the inclusion in classrooms now, different students having different sexual orientation or preferences, kids who are in different social statuses, and mostly the kids with different cultures or different ethnicities. Now let's move on to the A. A is probably the one that applies to me most. A stands for accountable. To be accountable means you take responsibility for your own actions, right or wrong, good or bad. One of the hardest things to do in life is owning up to your mistakes or bad decisions. But in order to grow as a person, you have to own your decisions and be held accountable. That way you can learn from your mistakes. Last but not least is the N in Titan, which stands for noble. This is the letter I think makes the word Titan complete. Noble means having or showing fine personal qualities or high moral principles or ideas. But noble to me means doing the right thing whether or not someone is watching you. And without being noble, I don't think you can be successful. To me, being noble or not can make or break you as a person. Here at Lorain High School, each and every one of us is learning to own our success. And if we practice being a Titan every day, we all have a lifetime of success ahead of us.
Appreciation, Jeff. Here's a certificate of appreciation for leading the pledge tonight at the board meeting. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Jeff, want to introduce your family? I know I met Mom, right?
Yes, that's my mom in the white coat, my brother Joseph in the neon shirt,
Okay.
and my brother Christopher in the black shirt. Black hoodie, I'll talk about.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jeff's going to be an entrepreneur, going to college somewhere in Louisville, right? Probably U of L, and going to business. It's where your third brother is, right? Down there, LaGrange, though, just a little bit north. Yeah, a lot of family out there, so we're going to hook up at the next family reunion, the Graham side. A good time will be had. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you. At this time, we would entertain our first hearing of the public. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? This time, may I have a motion to approve or amend the minutes from November 10th, regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Is there any old business for discussion? This time, we'll move on to the report and recommendations of the treasurer. Josh?
Recommend for approval items 8.01 through 8.04.
So moved.
Support. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Dr. Graham, reports, recommendations of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First, I'd like to walk on item 10.10 that's in front of you.
Motion to walk on. Item 10.1?
10.10, yes.
10.
I'll support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval 10.01 to 10.10 personnel matters.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval 11.01 to 11.10 operations matters.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And 12.01 was an update on traffic lights. I'm assuming there was an operations emergency, and Mr. Hawks will have to give this at a later date. Mr. Hawks, if you could be so kind as to give us an update on traffic lights, that would be phenomenal.
There's
Especially for the
less
city
than what we
councilman.
had in the city a while ago. Thank you. What we have been working with the city in regards to our crosswalks and with the traffic lights. Mr. Sturgill has been at one of the meetings. The one that's on 21st and Reed, right now, that is the main one. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath, I'm old, climbing those stairs. That we have great concern. We did, the crossing guard for a while had taken quite a few numbers for us, counting, when we had our compliance officers out at the other sites that we had some concerns. So the 21st and Reed one was the main one that came out with a lot of numbers, such as 100 students cross that intersection.
Is that
Reed
or Reeds?
Reed, thank you.
Okay.
Right over here by the shack. Thank you. With that, the city did recognize that with our information, and however, that intersection had a crash that it also took out the telephone pole and a few other things, and right now they're getting estimates what it will take to improve it, put the lights back up in that area. So that's where we are as far as our concerns with the
So
city.
the only concern we have is the 21st and Reeves intersection. The rest of them are okay because our students don't cross those roads because of the
Or-
enrollment boundaries for the elementary schools. Is that correct?
Correct, or as that many kids crossing, yes. We do have our crossing guards throughout the district in a lot of the areas that they had taken out. We, as a district, had concerns in areas of crossing, major intersections, railroad, things of that nature.
Okay, I think what might be beneficial is if we could create some kind of report from the district. Because what's happening is, of course, there's all the speculation. And people are saying, well, they're doing this, and they didn't talk to these folks. And we've got council folks who are concerned, we've got parents who are concerned. So if we can do that and then maybe have that review. So there was a consultant who did the study for the city. And I think from what I understand, that study was done prior to us go back to neighborhood schools.
You're absolutely correct. The other part of that, Mr. Williams, is that they did it during the summer. And we brought that up. We brought it up with council, and we brought it up with the safety director for the city. And we said, you know, your report was done, however, and again, go back to what you said, the two issues. One, that it was done when we did not redistrict, and two, when there was no students in session.
So now does our compliance officers doing this, that's not really a formal study, I presume?
Not, well, I don't know how, formal, where we had an outside agency.
Yeah, I mean,
come in.
is there any licensing needed to,
No, basically, same thing with the ODOT, what they do, they hire individuals, sit there with a clicker,
Okay.
and, or they have in the road you've seen where your car goes over with a counter, but our officers were at certain locations, and were a lot of concerns that we had that either the board members had brought up and/or principals, and we did place them, and they did a account for a couple weeks.
okay, so maybe, between, us and communication folks,
Mhm.
something so that the public feels confident that there's been due diligence done
Mhm.
and that no one is in harm's way. That'll probably give the city also a little bit of leverage in stating that these intersections that were in question, we've addressed.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
And I've not been in many meetings, but I've had a lot of summaries of the meetings, and the city, as always, at least in my 15 or 16 months' experience here in Lorain, very cooperative, very collaborative approach. We have a seat at the table, they listen. So again, I think in everything that I've experienced here, we're working together.
Absolutely. And Officer Cornwell from the traffic division has been working with us, and him and I have been in constant communication.
This is you constantly create safe routes for children to go to school. It has to have been done over the years. I read something that you guys did with the state, and this and that. That's what we do, right?
Absolutely. That's what we do every year. Now, what you're speaking on is a different matter. The safe routes is we applied for a grant, and Rachel's not here. It's a grant through the state, ODOT, and we happened to be one of the districts that did receive the grant. We're in that process. In fact, just about 3 weeks ago, we met with the state, the local agencies, ODOT, the city, the LPD, our local LPD was there, and people from our staff, meeting with them. And between now and summer, we'll be meeting with them, going over safe routes. You probably have seen it in the news, Ride Your Bike Day, Walk to School Day, where the kids all wear the certain T-shirts and things of that nature. So, yeah, we are in that process, Mr. Sturgill, with that
Yeah,
grant.
I understand what the city's doing, what they're trying to do to save money and everything, but, I guess my point with this is the children don't have the same judgment as adults, and sometimes they run out in front of cars, and I really hope that we don't see that happen.
And our crossing guards see that. We have designated areas for crossing, and the city has, the designated areas for crossing. And as we all know, we'll see children, adults, whoever crossing, 50 yards down the street, 50 yards away from that crossing. But we encourage, we tell the kids, the crossing guards, please
So
cross here.
They are gonna put reeds back, right?
Yes, right now, they're in the process of going, getting estimates, what it's gonna
Yeah,
take
'cause
to
I
repair
know
all that
if I
intersection.
lived in, if I was crossing 21st Street right there, I wouldn't walk 2 blocks west
Yeah.
to come back 2 blocks east. I'd probably take my chances,
Yeah.
And I, like I said, children don't have the same judgment as adults do, and,
You're correct,
know.
yeah.
Any other questions from board members?
I think I'm clear. I think Mr. Royal was fighting to get here for this
Yeah.
conversation. I know he missed most of it, so.
So Angel Royal, who is city council councilman, and I know you had some concerns about the traffic light. So if you want to address us, or please come up as a guest.
Sorry I'm late. We had a meeting this morning, or this evening. There was a few lights in my ward that I had major concerns about, but out of the 3 that I had residents petition, one of them was 31st and Palm Avenue, which is about, I think, 2 blocks from Palm Elementary. And so one of my biggest concerns is, and I know traffic lights aren't used for stopping speeders, but 31st Street is a freeway right now. And so I know that there's a lot of preschool, kindergarten, Depending, it's not as much traffic in the morning as it is in the afternoon, and those are one of the lights that I've really been petitioning. A lot of residents in that neighborhood been petitioning, and that's one that I would really like to go back up, and hopefully in the future we can. I know Councilman Fallis has met with you guys, and I know we're getting ready to start a few more conversations, and that's one of the lights that I'll be fighting for. And I wanted to know maybe in the future if we can get together and see how we, if possibly, we could work together on trying to get that light back up for the kids from that neighborhood, because most of the kids that go to that school are from that area. So that was basically one of the main light that I'm really pushing, that one and 28th and Pearl, but that has nothing to do with the schools. So, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Hawks, if, is that one of the lights that we did
Yes, we did a study on
Okay.
that.
And then maybe offline, we can share that information with Mr. Royal, and then we can talk about more. You know, I mean, we get that fact that having a light there is kind of a deterrent. It's like a big speed bump hanging there. Not as much traffic, but it kind of slows folks down. So, I mean, and maybe there's something else that's less expensive than a light.
For stop signs.
Yeah, I mean, there's this range, there's nothing, and then there's something. And maybe there's something the city can come up with that just gives the community a little bit better feeling about it. I mean, sometimes the anxiety is more the issue than the reality of it, so. But anyone else, any comments? It's our last hearing of the public. All right, then, what's our next meeting date?
The 19th.
19th?
Mm-hmm.
So our next meeting will be December 19th, right here at 6:30 PM. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second,
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
yes.
Mr. Demakia?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.